Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today we will be discussing the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a cognitive bias that affects people's perception of their own abilities. The effect was first described by social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999, and it has since become a popular topic in psychology and beyond. The Dunning-Kruger effect is named after David Dunning and Justin Kruger, the social psychologists who first described the phenomenon in their 1999 study, which was called Unskilled and Unaware of It: How Difficulties in Recognizing One's Own Incompetence Lead to Inflated Self-Assessment. The term Dunning-Kruger effect itself was coined by journalist David McRaney in his book You Are Not So Smart, which popularized the concept to a wider audience. The term effect is used to describe the observable phenomenon of people overestimating their abilities despite their lack of knowledge or expertise. The names of the researchers are used to credit them for their contribution to the development and understanding of this cognitive bias. However, there have been instances where public figures have demonstrated overconfidence in their abilities despite a lack of expertise or knowledge in a particular area, which can be seen as an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Here are a few possible examples. In 2019, musician B.o.B made headlines for his belief that the earth is flat. Despite overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary, B.o.B persisted in his belief and even launched a crowdfunding campaign to launch a satellite to prove his theory. This could be seen as an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where B.o.B overestimated his own knowledge and expertise in science and astronomy. In 2020, singer Madonna posted a video on social media claiming that a vaccine for COVID-19 had already been developed but was being suppressed by the pharmaceutical industry. This could be seen as an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where Madonna overestimated her own knowledge and understanding of medicine and public health. In 2008, a reality TV star was criticized for promoting a line of appetite suppressant lollipops on social media. Many health experts and eating disorder advocates spoke out against the promotion, arguing that it could be harmful and misleading to young fans. This could be seen as an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the famous girl overestimated her own knowledge and influence in the field of nutrition and health. What is actually the Dunning-Kruger effect, and how is it seen or spotted among famous people? The Dunning-Kruger effect refers to the phenomenon where people who lack knowledge or expertise in a particular area tend to overestimate their abilities in that area. Essentially, they don't know that they don't know, and as a result, they believe they are more competent than they actually are. On the other hand, people who do possess expertise in a particular area tend to underestimate their abilities because they are aware of how much there is still to learn. This means that there is often an inverse relationship between confidence and competence. Those who are most confident in their abilities may actually be the least competent. There's another perspective of Dunning-Kruger effect that can be manifested in real life. The Dunning-Kruger effect can manifest in various ways in everyday life. For example, have you ever had a friend who thinks they are an expert in something, but in reality they are just barely scratching the surface of knowledge? This is a classic example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Another example is when people think they can do something without any training or experience, such as fixing a car or performing a medical procedure. These individuals may not be aware of the complexity of the task and the amount of knowledge and skill required to perform it competently. And there's this other question that most people who have come across the Dunning-Kruger effect have asked this question: why is the Dunning-Kruger effect so important to understand? Understanding this is essential for several reasons. Firstly, it helps us recognize when we may be overconfident in our abilities and need to seek out more information or training to improve. This is particularly important in areas such as medicine, where overestimating one's abilities can have serious consequences. Secondly, it can help us be more empathetic towards others who may be struggling with the Dunning-Kruger effect. Instead of dismissing them as arrogant or ignorant, we can understand that they may genuinely believe that they are competent in an area where they are not. Lastly, understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect can help us become better learners. By recognizing that there is always more to learn and that we may not have all the answers, we can approach new information with humility and an open mind. In order to understand the Dunning-Kruger effect, we have gathered a few real-life examples. If a student who thinks they are a great writer because they received a high grades on their high school essays but struggles to write a coherent college level paper. Another example of a Dunning-Kruger effect is a person who thinks they can diagnose their own illness and chooses not to seek medical advice from a trained professional, leading to a delay in treatment and potentially worsening their condition. Another example of the Dunning-Kruger effect might be a manager who believes they are excellent at leading their team but fails to recognize their team's dissatisfaction and high turnover rate. Another example might be a novice cook who thinks they can make a complicated dish without following the recipe or understanding the cooking techniques, resulting in a disappointing outcome. And another example of the Dunning-Kruger effect might be a person who thinks they are a great driver despite having multiple accidents and receiving tickets for traffic violations. This effect is not limited to humans. Studies have shown that other animals, such as rats, can also demonstrate the phenomenon. In one study, rats were trained to perform a task and were then divided into two groups. One group was allowed to watch a video of itself performing the task, while the other group was not. The group that watched the video showed a greater overconfidence in their abilities compared to the group that didn't. The Dunning-Kruger effect can be influenced by culture and upbringing. Studies have shown that people from individualistic cultures such as the United States are more likely to overestimate their abilities compared to the people from collectivist cultures such as Japan. The Dunning-Kruger effect can also be influenced by mood and emotions. People who are feeling happy or confident are more likely to overestimate their abilities, while people who are feeling anxious or uncertain are more likely to underestimate their abilities. This effect has been used to explain various real-world phenomena such as the overconfidence of the CEOs and the poor performance of certain political leaders. This effect has also inspired various internet memes and jokes such as the popular phrase, "I know enough to be dangerous." It's worth noting that the Myers-Briggs type indicator, known as the MBTI, is a popular personality assessment tool that categorizes individuals into one of the 16 personality types based on 4 dichotomies: extroversion or introversion, sensing and intuition, thinking or feeling, and the last criteria is judging or perceiving. While there may be some overlap between personality traits and cognitive biases, there is currently no conclusive evidence linking the MBTI personality types with the Dunning-Kruger effect, whereas this effect is a cognitive bias that can affect people across all personality types and is more closely related to a lack of knowledge or expertise in a particular area rather than the personality traits. It's important to approach both the MBTI and the Dunning-Kruger effect with a critical and open-minded perspective, and to recognize that neither tool can fully capture the complexity and uniqueness of human personalities or cognitive biases. In a nutshell, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a well-established psychological phenomenon that has been studied and supported by scientific research. And as we already said, that it was first described in 1999, a paper published by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, that who conducted a series of experiments to demonstrate the aforementioned phenomenon. Their research showed that people who lack knowledge or expertise in a particular area are often unable to accurately assess their own abilities and may overestimate their skills or knowledge. This overconfidence can lead to poor decision making as well as a resistance to feedback or criticism. The Dunning-Kruger effect is now considered to be a well-established cognitive bias, and is taught in many introductory psychology courses. In conclusion, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a fascinating cognitive bias that affects how we perceive our own abilities. By understanding this phenomenon, we can become better learners, more empathetic individuals, and ultimately more competent in the areas we care about. Thank you for listening to our podcast. I guess I'll see you next time. Have a great one.